I'm having a great time. I really am. Not getting speeding fines, enjoying my time out here. Some of you may or may not know, I got a job. This is fantastic for me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Changed my life completely. Come into the US, feel like people are smiling at me more. Might just be my imagination. Because I noticed it at the airports when I've been flying in. Probably a combination of my job and the fact that the Ebola crisis is now past. That was probably the worst time ever, is flying into America as an African during the Ebola crisis. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in an airport. You'd walk in, there'd be tension, they'd usher everybody into a special quarantine area, ask you questions that they don't normally ask. The number one question they always ask was, "Sir, have you been in contact with Ebola?" They'd always ask, "Sir, have you been in contact with Ebola?" I love the sincerity of the question. Like there was a chance my answer could be yes. And next stop, Disney World. Like, what kind of person do you think I am that I'll still be embarking on a journey, having knowingly been in contact with the most deadly disease on the planet? Like, who do you think I am that I'll be there like, I don't care. Booking.com has a zero refund policy. I'm going to Disney World, even if it kills me, Mickey Mouse, and everybody else, I'm going. Have you been in contact with Ebola? And they always said it like Ebola was like a distant relative. I love the phrasing. Have you been in contact with Ebola? Yeah, I spoke to him last week. He's doing well, eh? Thank you very much for asking. Ebola made flying a nightmare. Because Ebola was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in terms of the human condition, how quickly we're taught to panic. You know, 1 minute I'll be flying, I'll see people of Middle Eastern descent getting pulled, you know, random selections, beeping through the machine. And then Ebola happened, and all of a sudden the focus shifted. Focus shifted, and now it was Africans getting pulled aside, Africans waiting. Middle Easterners were cruising through security. And then almost as quickly as it started, it flipped back overnight. And I'll never forget when it happened. Right after the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris. That attack happened, and almost the next day, Ebola wasn't a thing anymore. Middle Easterners were back in the spotlight. Normal service had been resumed. Because after Charlie Hebdo, I would walk through airports and no one gave a damn. They didn't care about me, where I was from, nor the bananas in my bag. I just cruised through security. Charlie Hebdo. Terrorist attack in France. Everyone led with it. CNN, breaking news, terrorists have attacked Charlie Hebdo headquarters. BBC, and in breaking news, unconfirmed reports saying 12 people have been killed by terrorists who have attacked. Everyone said they were terrorists. It was weird to me because we didn't know that they were terrorists. We just knew that they were Middle Eastern. But immediately we went to terrorists. Because if you're Middle Eastern, that's a terrorist. That's the world we live in now. Yeah, if you're Middle Eastern, terrorism is your trademark. It's so crazy how easy it is to get people to hate a group of people, because that's what happened. Charlie Hebdo, and then everyone started saying things about Muslims. These damn Muslims, we gotta stop Islam. That's what we gotta do. We gotta stop these Islamists, these Muslims. Now, I'm not saying all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. Yeah, it sounds really smart, doesn't it? It sounds really smart. Yeah, but it's not. It's stupid and it's hate speech. That's what it is. It really is. Terrorism is not a race, it's an act. It has evolved over time. Yes, right now we're dealing with extremism, Islamic terror in some parts of the world. But if you go to other parts of the world and ask them what a terrorist is, they'll show you a different face. You go to England, 20 years ago, and you said, well, what was a terrorist? They show you a drunk Irishman, right? I didn't need to say drunk, I could have just said Irishman. There was a time when Nelson Mandela was labeled a terrorist. Like, terrorism is an act, it's not a face. People say these things. Well, these Muslims, you gotta admit, there's an awful lot of them doing the same thing. You're like, yeah, but you know who's not a terrorist? Most Muslims. Yeah, most Muslims are not terrorists. I'm not even Muslim, but it gets to me because I'm like, most Muslim people are not terrorists. You know how you know this? Because we're still alive. Yeah. They've had ample opportunity to take us out, people. There's 1 billion Muslim people on the planet. They've had every chance. They could have killed us using those falafels they sell us after midnight when we come out of the club. They could have wiped us all out. But they killer kebabs. They've had the means. It's so weird to see our prejudices, you know, the way people are labeled in the media, you know, in society. And it's not just Muslim people, you see it with black people as well. You know, people saying these things like, you know, I remember when the riots were happening in Baltimore, people quickly jumped, these thugs, these are a bunch of thugs running around, these thugs. You know, I'm starting to think black people like crime. That's what I'm starting to think. Is that the only way they can deal with it? Black people like crime. No. Black people don't like crime. Because you know who's not a criminal? Most black people. Yeah, most black people are not criminals. Black people hate crime just like everybody else. It's not like black people are cheering crime on. It's not like they're watching a black guy do some like, yeah, Darnell, you steal that man, you steal that yeah, no. When black people see a black person doing a crime, they also looking at the person like, that nigga crazy. You've got to fight the act, not the face, not a face that you put to, it's not the same thing, and everybody has it, you know. If you're a Middle Eastern and you do something, if you're a black person gets shot in a bad neighborhood, the first story they always lead with the same thing. And today in Compton, a man was shot in what is suspected to be gang-related violence. It's always gang-related violence. They never say it's anything else. Never just two guys, gang-related, probably gang-related. Why do you say that? Well, because, you know, in this area, there's hip-hop. Why is it gang-related? It's always it doesn't matter who it is. Could be two kids. Someone got shot. A 3-year-old was shot today by a 4-year-old in what is suspected to be gang-related violence. But they're kids. Yeah, they recruit very young. Wasn't a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. It's never a mistake. But if it's in a rich neighborhood, the story changes. Because you'll never hear them reporting the same thing about the Hamptons. And today in the Hamptons, a man was shot in what is suspected to be gang-related violence. The Burberry gang has been known to operate around these parts. And recently, they never say those things. In fact, you're more likely to see the police commissioner going, we've just conducted an investigation. We found out that a firearm was discharged earlier today, and a bullet left the weapon, penetrating a victim, and we're going to investigate whether it was misfired or I'm sorry. Did you say did someone shoot the gun? Well, we're not ruling anything out right now, but we're checking to see if there was a mechanism failure or what about the person? Well, we don't think that this was intentional. We don't. So wait, we live in a world where you investigate a gun before you investigate a rich white man? Is that what you're saying? No. That's not what we're saying. But I mean, you must remember the gun is black. But that's not the point. The point is,